Hello! Today I'm going to be taking a look at this little watercolour set by the company Jasart, which is an Australian company. These are Jasart Byron Watercolour paints in a set of 12, and I have the Australian landscape set here. There are also a few other sets that come in pastel, ocean, primary, nature and metallic, but I thought this one would be the most interesting for filming, so it's the one I picked up. Let's open it and check it out, shall we? So it's in a metal tin. It says it's got 12 watercolour half pans, an aqua brush and a sponge, so that's kind of cool. Most of them usually don't have those two things in them. And if I flip over, we can see a little preview of the colours that are in here. Let's get this thing open. So it comes in a fairly standard metal tin with the little thumb ring and all of that stuff. These tins are very easy to get and a lot of paint companies use them. So if I open this up, normally you'd have the runners inside for half pans to fit in, but this is actually a plastic insert with the moulds cut out for them. Those do feel like they're stuck in though, which is really great. So if you tip it upside down, they're not all going to fall out everywhere. Yay! And we have a fold-up watercolour brush that you fill with water, and the sponge, as they promised. So I think these sets are marketed for travel and urban sketching. I don't think they're meant to be anything super high level, but for sketchbooks and urban sketching, going out to paint with them, this is actually quite a nice little set by the looks of things, because it's not so expensive that if you lose it or drop it, it's the end of the world. So the half pans are definitely extruded paint, which means it comes out in a tube and then it gets sliced in the factory. Otherwise, it looks pretty standard. It's very hard to tell from when they're dry as to how good these are, so I guess the only thing to do is paint. And I'm very happy that they actually have these on the back so that I can match up the names of the colours with the ones in here. I really hope they're in order. So I filled the water brush up. I've just got my Etcher sketchbook here. I've stamped in a little swatch card thing, so I might just write the names in there really tiny so I can remember. Do you remember this page? I prefer to forget that one. You know what I really like about this set is that there's no black or white. A lot of small sets like this do have a white in there and they're usually useless. Probably the original set that they have would have the black and the white. But I have noticed something interesting. I wrote out the blue grey and I thought that might be Payne's grey, but no, there is a Payne's grey over here. So what's this colour? Is this going to be indigo? Let's find out by swatching them. So the first one we have here is Gamboge, a wonderfully warm yellow. I really love this colour. And I'm afraid I could not find any pigment number information for these, so we're just going to have to look at the pretty colours. I personally don't think it's a big issue with a small travel set like this because I'm not going to be using it to do professional paintings to sell. This is exactly what it's designed for, a sketchbook. The orange is really nice and warm too, and this red is super pretty. I love those three together. I think they're really lovely colours. Pretty much all of the colours in here feel quite transparent. I mean, I don't know, once again, because there's no specific info on the opacity or transparency of specific colours, but they all seem to be quite transparent, which I really like. This purple is really bright. I think of all of them, this would be the one that would be the least light fast. It just feels like there's a bit of fluorescence in it. But I am glad they've included a purple in this set because mixing the deep red with either the ultramarine or the Prussian blue isn't going to bring out a very bright purple. The ultramarine's fairly standard, although I did notice it was a little on the purplish side. Maybe it's more of an ultramarine violet rather than an ultramarine blue as such. The Prussian blue seems fairly standard. It's a nice solid blue colour and about the brightest blue that's in the set, really, although it's a lot deeper than, say, a phthalo blue. But I like the top row of colours. I think they're very nice. And then coming on to this mystery blue-grey, I am pretty sure this is an indigo colour. It looks very much like one to me. It's a nice one, I like it. It's quite a deep shadow colour once you get it going. The dark green is another favourite for me. I am so happy this set has dark green in it. I have complained about numerous other sets not having a dark green and only having bright greens, which is impossible to get a dark green out of. In this set, though, there is not really a bright green. This olive green is closest to it. It's a nice natural green for landscapes though, so I'm quite happy with this one. All of these paints were easy to re-wet, I had no issues at all with that. Going on to orange red, not sure what this colour is. It's definitely more intense than a burnt sienna, and it's about the earthiest colour in here aside from the raw umber, which I do actually like. It feels a bit more like a burnt umber to me. It's not quite as cool as what I would expect a raw umber to look like. That's okay, I prefer a warmer brown anyway. And last up here is Payne's Grey. This one's pretty neutral, maybe leaning to the cooler side, but definitely not as blue as that blue grey. Well, that brush is never going to look the same again. It is so stained. Wow. It's okay, but it's very awkward to hold. Because it's so short, I'm kind of holding it like that, and I'm getting pain up in the pad of my thumb. So it's not the greatest brush in the world just because it's so short, but I do like that it fits in the box and you can use it in a pinch. The only thing is that you do have to empty that water out because otherwise you can't put the brush in whole. So I'm just going to tip the water out and then we can lie that in there. So it fits really well. It's just, it's a bit awkward and you can't have the water going anywhere unless you put the brush in a different pencil case or something. So that's just a small thing to note. Overall, I'm quite liking the set. You can see there's maybe some little white dots in there, and I'm not too sure if that's coming from the paint or if it's actually from the paper coming up underneath. So I guess I'll find out more when I do some paintings. I'm going to fill the rest of this page with some things. I don't know what yet, so I need to plan that out, and I will get painting. In February, I went out to visit my father for a few days. He's doing really well, by the way, after his heart surgery last year, and we visited these really pretty gardens out near where he lives. All the summer flowers were in bloom and it was just beautiful. So I've taken inspiration today from some of the photos that I took. There were a lot of really beautiful flowers from natives and non-native plants. I was feeling inspired by these, so I thought I would do a few little sketchy paintings in the book just to test out the colours of this set. I grabbed a pencil, in this case a Blackwing, and just started sketching out some flowers. My aim was to fill this page with a few bits and pieces rather than one specific painting. My hand has been very sore lately, as I mentioned a little bit earlier when I was struggling with the small brush. Using a longer brush does help. And apologies for the camera being out of focus for this first part because I didn't notice it, and of course there's only one take, so there's no redoing it. But I was keeping my sketches very loose today because I was getting that hand pain, and at the moment I do actually have it strapped up because I spoke to the doctor and he said that I need to rest it for a week or two. If it doesn't get better, I'm probably going to have scans on it. I think it might be a repetitive strain injury, but there is a possibility that I've torn a ligament somewhere around my thumb, and yeah, it's pretty sore at the moment. I have a feeling it was from the coloured pencil drawing I did recently of the lion, so the doctor says no coloured pencils for the moment. Paints, on the other hand, are a lot easier to use, and I wasn't having much pain while doing this because the painting is loose. Finally it comes back into focus, and here's a second drawing of another flower. Don't ask me what kind of flowers they are, I'm pretty hopeless with botanical names, but I used this really pretty purple for the flower. It's pretty much exactly the same shade, so no mixing was needed. I was using a very loose technique here, painting water onto the petal and then going around the edges to let the paint flow into that water and get a sharper edge on the outside and a softer edge on the inside. Then I've added in some more details once the whole thing had dried. But I did not spend a lot of time on these because I wanted them to be loose and sketchy, and also because fine detail work at the moment is just too difficult. So up the top here I've got another small yellow flower. It's from the photo where I had the blue sky behind them. This yellow is just a little bit too warm for this particular flower, but it doesn't matter too much. A lemon yellow would have been more ideal for it. But there's no lemon yellow, so I can't use it. The other thing I forgot to mention is that the paint palette is very, very slick, so paints were just beading up on top of it, and I've pulled out a little ceramic dish in the shape of Australia to use because the paints spread and pull a lot better in it. I would need to probably scuff up the insides of the metal paint palette to get the paint to stick. Maybe use a melamine sponge or even a bit of toothpaste. Apparently that works well too. And then I just painted some of the Prussian blue watered down in the background to make a kind of sky colour. It's not too bad, I mean it's not perfect sky, but it did okay. So down in this space I'm drawing the park bench that my dad was sitting on in the first photo. It's got a bunch of conifer trees behind it and a couple of pot plants on either side. This is pretty much the extent of Australian landscape that I managed to get today. I was going for more of an urban sketching kind of feel to this sketchbook page, even though proper urban sketching is actually drawing on site, but I am working entirely from photographs here. So the park bench is actually a bright blue colour, but I did not have that, so I used the ultramarine instead. It doesn't matter if it's not exactly the same. It worked out okay, and I'm actually quite pleased with how well the bench came out. It's not perfect by any means. I wasn't exactly measuring lines or anything like that. It's very much a quick, free-handed sketch, but it kind of looks like the park bench. And then I added in some of the other paints for the little pot plants that were on either side. Some of the Payne's grey and also a bit of indigo for the ground in front of the chair, and then using the dark green I was able to paint in the conifers behind. That dark green is excellent and I really like it in this set. It made it so much easier to get that lovely dark foliage. The watercolour paints themselves are actually very nice. I had no problems with them. There is no discernible chalkiness, so I think the white spots that were showing through is actually from the paper rather than the paints in the swatches. The paints are nicely pigmented, they're very transparent, and for my first time using this set, I was pretty impressed with it. I like the colour palette, even though it is missing a couple of colours that might come in handy, like a cooler yellow, but I am sure that one of the other sets would have that lemon yellow somewhere in there. Overall, the quality of these paints is great, and if you want to take a small set out for urban sketching or just plein air sketching of any kind, this one's decent. It's a convenient, lightweight palette. Yes, you will have to scuff up the inside if you want to do any kind of mixing on it because it is just beading up like crazy, but otherwise it's perfectly fine. The little watercolour brush is not that great in my opinion, it's just too short for my fingers, but I mean it works in a pinch, and overall, yeah, I'm happy with this set. And I'm finishing up the page now. So I finished a whole page. I'm quite liking these little paints. They are great for sketchbooks and just doing small paintings of different things. I mean, I didn't end up doing an Australian landscape really, but these things were in Australia, so that's something. I quite like the colour palette. It is lacking in a couple of things, but it's 12 colours and it's a limited colour palette, so we make do with what we have. This didn't turn out too badly, even though it's completely the wrong colour for the chair, but it doesn't matter. I think it turned out okay. You can see it's a park bench, so that's the main thing. I love the yellow, orange and red combination. I think that's really vibrant, and that purple is also really pretty. As I said before, I'm not too sure how light fast that would be, but for a sketchbook there's no issues. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it today. It's just a small one. I wanted to do a few little sketchy paintings in my book, and let me know what you think of these paints and if you would consider getting them. I'll put some links up to them if I can find them. They're not very easy to find. There's a few shops in Australia, but I don't know if these are available overseas. If they are, I will post some links for you. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button, and I hope you're having a wonderful day out there. I'll swatch you later. Bye.